In the previous video lecture, we already discussed regarding asynchronous DRAMs, internal organization of 1M into 1 DRAM chip and internal organization of a 2M into a DRAM chip. So, in the present session, we'll try to discuss regarding performance measures, memory system considerations as well as ROM, that is read-only memory. So first we'll consider the performance measures. So basically we can consider two types of performance measures like latency as well as bandwidth. A good indication of performance is given by two parameters, latency as well as bandwidth. So we'll take what is the meaning of a latency. So latency is nothing but the amount of time it takes to transfer a word of data to or from the memory. Suppose while transferring the data, what exactly the amount of time taken? So latency in the sense the amount of time taken in order to transfer a word of data either into the memory or from the memory. For a transfer of single word, the latency provides the complete indication of memory performance. So if the latency is more means I can say that it may result on the actual performance of the system. So for block transfer, the latency denotes the time it takes to transfer the first word of data. Suppose if you are transferring in terms of blocks, the blocks of data need to be exchanged between I/O as well as memory. So that instant the latency denotes the time taken in order to transfer the very first word of data. So next we'll take bandwidth. What is the meaning of a bandwidth? So it is defined as the number of bits or bytes that can be transferred in 1 second. While specifying a bandwidth, I can consider either the number of bits that can be transferred in 1 second or else the number of bytes that can be transferred in 1 second. So bandwidth is basically depending upon the speed of access to the stored data as well as the number of bits that can be accessed in parallel. So bandwidth is depending upon two factors, the speed of access as well as the number of bits that can be accessed in parallel. So basically we can consider the performance is given by two parameters, one is latency and other one is the bandwidth. Latency is nothing but the amount of time taken in order to transfer a word of data either into the memory or from the memory. Bandwidth is nothing but it is defined as the number of bits or bytes that can be transferred in 1 second. Structure of larger memories. Structure of larger memories. So let us consider how several memory chips can be connected to form a larger memory required in a system. So the system may require the larger memory space in order to store the data. So such expansion is called as memory expansion. So it can be done in two ways. One is size expansion or word length expansion. So it can be done in two ways. One is size expansion. And the other one is word length expansion. Word length expansion. So in the case of dynamic memory system, the physical implementation is done in the form of memory modules. So in the case of dynamic memory system, it consisting of some memory modules. If a larger memory is built, by placing DRAM chips directly on the motherboard, then it will occupy large amount of space on the board. So if you are plugging directly a larger memory space into the motherboard, so it may occupy larger amount of space on the motherboard. So these packaging considerations have led to the development of larger memory units known as single inline memory module as well as dual inline memory modules. So we can consider SIMMs, that is SIMM and DIMM. The full form of SIMM is single inline memory module and the other one is dual inline memory module. So both the modules consisting of memory chips on small board that plugs into a socket on the motherboard. So these are the memory modules, and these modules can be plugged into the motherboard directly. So that is how we can consider the different memory modules, so that we can go for memory expansion in the case of dynamic memory system. Several memory chips can be connected to form a larger memory required in a system. Suppose the memory capacity required as per the application is more, so we can make use of several memory chips that can be connected together. So this concept is known as memory expansion. So the memory expansion can be done in two ways. Either the memory expansion can be considered with respect to the size, so that is capacity expansion or size expansion. The first one is size expansion. The second method is word length expansion. Word length expansion. So in the diagram we can observe that paralleling of 4 16K into 8 SRAM chips are connected in order to increase the memory capacity to 64K, keeping number of bits fixed. So that means active load chip as well as select signals. So in the diagram we can observe that we consider only chip select signals, and we connected 4 16K into 8 chips in parallel in order to get the total capacity of 64K. Total capacity of memory cell is now 64K, and we can observe that we are having the address lines from A14 to A15 used to select the chips, and it consisting of one decoder block, that is 2:4 decoder block, and it also consisting of 14-bit internal chip address, so that is connected with all the memory chips, and individual chip consisting of data input line as well as data output line. So in general we can also consider bidirectional data input and data output line, but in the diagram we considered separate data input lines as well as data output lines. So all the data input and data output lines are connected separately to the individual blocks, and for each block we are having 8-bit data input as well as data output lines. So we can also implement 2M into 32 memory using, suppose if you want to implement 2M into 32 memory capacity, so we can implement using 512K into 8 SRAM cells. So that is how we can go for the memory expansions by considering either size expansion or word length expansion. So the diagram shows organization of a 2M into 32 memory module using 512K into 8 static memory chips. So total we are having around 16 chips, and so each block, so here we are having 4 chips plus 4 plus 4 and plus 4. So total 16 chips we are having. 16 chips we are having in order to construct 2M into 32 memory chip. Here each column consisting of 4 chips. which implements 1 byte position. 4 such set provides required 2M into 32 memory. So we are having 4 different sets and each set is having 4 chips. Each chip has a control input called as chip select. So this is the chip select. So these chip select will be located for individual chips, which enables the chip to accept the data from or place the data on its data lines. The data outputs have tri-state buffers, so only the selected chip places the data on the data output lines, while all other output remains in high impedance state. So here we can observe that we are having 19-bit address as well as the single memory chip and 8-bit data input or output lines. So the data outputs have tri-state buffers, so it behaves as either input or output lines. The only selected chip places the data on the data output line. So finally, after reading the information, so we can copy the data into the data lines, that is data output lines. So we can observe that 21 address lines are required to select any 32-bit word in this 2M memory. So higher order 2 bits of the address are decoded to determine which of the 4 chip select signals should be high, and lower 19 address bits are used to access the specific byte locations. So we are having here 21-bit address and we are having 19-bit internal chip address which is specified in the structure, and so these higher order 2 bits, so these higher order 2 bits are used in order to decode, as well as it will determine the 4 chip select signals should be high, and these 19 address bits are used to access the specific byte location inside each chip of the selected row. So the read bar write signal inputs of the chips are tied together to provide the common read and write signals. So here the read and write signals are combined together, and we can make use of so all the signals are tied together in order to provide a common read bar write control signal. So next we'll take memory considerations. So in the case of memory considerations, the choice of a RAM chip depends on many factors like cost. So the first factor may be cost. So next is speed. So next comes power consumption. Power consumption. So we can say that while selecting the RAM chip, we have to consider cost, speed as well as power dissipation, power consumption as well as size of the chip, memory capacity or size of the chip. SRAMs are faster but have less density. SRAMs are faster but have less density. In order to reduce the number of pins, the dynamic memory chips use multiplexed address inputs. In order to reduce the number of pins in the dynamic memory cell, so we can make use of multiplexed address inputs. The addresses are divided into 2 parts. The first half is higher order address and the second half is lower order address. So this higher order address is used in order to select a row cell within the array, and it also provides first and latched into memory chips under the control of RAS signal. So the higher order bits are used in order to select the row as well as in order to invoke RAS signal so that the respective row will be selected. So the lower order signal or lower order bit is used in order to select the respective column, as well as so this lower order bit address will be used in order to invoke or latch the CAS signal. So we can make use of two signals, row address strobe signal as well as column address strobe signal. So both the signals are active low signals. So that is RAS dash and CAS dash signals. The memory controller. So the processor issues all bits and address at the same time. So if the processor issues all the bits of an address in the same instant, the multiplexing is need to be performed. So this multiplexing will be performed by a controller called as memory controller. So the memory controller is placed between the processor, as well as the memory. Memory controller is placed between the processor as well as the memory. So the processor sends the address read bar write signal and then issues a request signal to the controller to indicate that a memory access need to be needed. So initially the processor will send the address as well as the type of the signal, that is control signal, read bar write signal, followed by the kind of request or memory request to the memory controller. The controller then forwards the row and column portion of the address to the memory, and which will generate. So now the memory controller will forward the row as well as column address to the memory, and it will invoke two signals, that is RAS dash and CAS dash signals. So it also sends the read bar write signal. As well as chip select signal along with the clock signal. So this clock signal is needed if the SRAM cells need to be considered or selected. So we can use the clock signals for SRAM cells. So the data lines are connected directly between the processor and the memory unit. So here we can observe that the data line is connected directly between the processor as well as the memory. So when the DRAM chips do not have refreshing capability, suppose in the DRAM chip, if you are not having the refreshing capability, DRAM chip, if it is not having the refreshing capability after each memory access, the memory controller does the refreshing task. The controller contains a refresh counter. The controller has one single refresh counter, so that provides the successive row address to refresh all the rows within a specified time. So it will select some respective row, and that row need to be, if it is refreshed, and the refreshing counter located within the memory controller will refresh the entire row. So that means in the case of DRAM cell, if the refreshing concept is not implemented, the memory controller does the refreshing task also. So this is how the memory controller works between the processor as well as the memory. So the controller accepts the complete address as well as read bar write dash signal when from the processor. A request signal indicates a memory access operation is to be performed. Then the controller will forward row as well as column address portion to the memory. So it will also generate RAS dash as well as EAS dash signal, and also sends the chip select signal and read bar write signal to the memory. So the major responsibility of memory controller is to perform the refreshing task also in the case of DRAM chip. So next we'll take RAM bus memory. So RAM bus technology is a fast signaling method used to transfer the information between chips. So RAM bus technology is used in order to transfer the data between chips. The signals consist of much smaller voltage swings around the reference voltage. So in the case of RAM bus technology, so you can consider one set of voltage, smaller voltage, which swings either above the reference or below the reference. So if this is the reference voltage or threshold voltage we adjusted, so it may swing above the reference or below the reference voltage. The reference voltage will be, this reference voltage is around 2 volts. The two logical values are presented by by 0.3 volt swing above as well as below the reference. So this is 0.3. Once again, below the reference is also 0.3 volts. So this type of signaling is generally known as differential signaling. The signaling swings above as well as below the reference. So this signaling or this type of signaling is referred as differential signaling. So this is referred as differential signaling. Rambus provides a complete specification for design of communication called as Rambus channel. So in the case of Rambus technology, which specifies a design in which the communication can be considered, and that is called as Rambus channel. So Rambus memory has a clock frequency of 400 megahertz. So in the case of Rambus memory, the clock frequency f is equal to 400 megahertz. The SRAMs as well as DRAM cells are volatile. That means the stored information is lost when the power is switched off. But some applications we need to store the informations permanently. In such cases we can go for read-only memory. So read-only memory, it consisting of a single transistor. So I can say that at logic value 0, the transistor T is connected to the ground point P, and the transistor switch is closed and voltage on the bit line nearly drops to 0. So at logic 1, the transistor switch is open, the bit line remains at high voltage. So we'll consider the actual read-only memory cell, which shows a simple configuration for a ROM cell. So here we are having a bit line as well as word line to which a transistor is connected. Transistor T is connected, and this transistor T is grounded via switch P or point P. So now we can observe that whenever the bit line and word lines are activated, so within the ROM cell, so we can store the information either 0 or 1. We can store either 0 or 1. So now we'll consider whenever the point P or switch P is not connected, in the sense the switch P is not connected means the switch P is open. So whenever the switch P is open, if this is the point, if it is open and P is directly grounded here, so this point it is open circuited, so that the transistor or within the ROM cell we can store value 1. Whenever P is not connected or switch is open, we can store logic 1. Within the ROM cell. So similarly, whenever the switch P is closed, so at that instant we can observe that other end of the point P which is directly grounded. So that means the transistor will be directly grounded through the point P. So that means the transistor T will be turned off. So that within the ROM cell we can store the value logic 0. So within the ROM cell we can store either 0 or 1. In order to store logic 1, the switch P is not connected. That means the switch P is open. So at that time the ROM cell will carry the value logic 1. So similarly, in order to store logic 0, the switch P will be closed, the transistor is directly grounded so that the value within the ROM cell will be logic 0. So after that we are having a sense bar write circuit at the end of the bit line. So at the end of the bit line we will be having sense bar write circuit, and that sense bar write circuit of the bit line generates the proper output value, and it will carry the value, or it will transfer the value into the data lines. So it will copy the value and it will transfer the value into the data lines. So next we'll take types of ROM. So first we are having different types of non-volatile memories are PROM, EPROM, EEPROM and flash memories. So in the case of flash memory, we can consider flash cards as well as flash drives. So first we'll consider PROM, that is programmable ROM, PROM or programmable ROM. So PROM allows the data to be loaded by the user. PROM allows the data or informations to be loaded by the user. The programmability is achieved by inserting a fuse at point P in a ROM cell. Before PROM is programmed, all the memory cells contain the value as 0. User can insert the fuse wherever he want to modify the data as 1, and he can burn those fuses in order to forcibly write the values or modify the values as 1 using high current pulse. So this process is also irreversible. So suppose in the case of PROM cell, suppose if you are having the entire memory cell, we are having the memory cells like this, and individual locations will be considering the fuses. Like this, and initially all the values will be zeros. So wherever the user want to modify the data, that means he want to forcibly modify the data as 1, the respective location fuse will be burned out, so using high current pulse, and we can modify the data. So the major advantages are, it provides flexibility, which is very fast comparatively. It is less expensive because they can be programmed directly by the users. Wherever user wants to modify the data, he can modify by burning the fuses using high current pulses. EPROM or erasable PROM. EPROM allows stored data to be erased and new data can be loaded. So in cell connection, we are having point P, and this point P, along with this point P, we are having a special transistor, and this transistor behaves as a normal transistor or disabled transistor. So disabled transistor in the sense, always the transistor will be turned off. This transistor will be always kept off. The transistor can be programmed to behave as a permanently open switch. So that means the transistor T will be turned off by injecting charge into it. So the stored information can be erased by dissipating the charges trapped in the transistor of the memory cell. So this is done by exposing the chip into UV light. So we can make use of ultraviolet rays or UV light. By passing UV light, we can electrically erase the contents. So erasable PROM chips have transparent windows. However, for erasing purpose, the chips has to be physically removed from the circuit board and where it is present. Also, the entire contents of the chips are removed. So whenever if you are performing the erasing or modification of the informations within EEPROM cell, so we have to remove the entire chip from the board or circuit board, and so we have to modify the data. So the major disadvantages are it provides flexibility during the development phase of the digital system. It can retain the stored information for a longer time. So the major disadvantages are the chips must be physically removed from the circuit for reprogramming. The entire contents need to be erased using UV light. So EEPROMs, electrically erasable ROM. The advantages are it can be both programmed and erased electrically. It allows the erasing of all cell contents selectively. The major disadvantage is it requires different voltages for erasing and writing. So this is a major drawback here. So we have to consider different voltage levels in order to perform erasing, writing and reading the stored data. So we have to use three different set of voltages to perform erasing task, writing task as well as reading the information. So next is flash memory. Write the contents of a single cell. In flash device, it is possible to read contents of single cell as well as write entire contents of a block. So in the case of flash drive, so it is possible to read the content of a single cell, but while writing we have to write the entire contents of a block. So prior to writing, the previous contents of the blocks are erased. So before writing the informations, we have to delete the previous contents of the blocks. So example, in MP3 player, the flash memory stores the data that represents sounds. The single flash chip cannot provide sufficient storage capacity for embedded system. So if you are using single memory chips, it is as per the capacity, so it cannot provide the sufficient storage space for embedded systems. So the major advantages are flash drive have greater density which leads to higher capacity and low cost per bit. It requires single power supply voltage as well as it consumes lesser power. So this is a major advantage of flash memory. So there are two methods for implementing larger memories. The first one is flash cards and other one is flash drives. So next is flash cards. One way of constructing larger module is to mount flash chips on a small cards. Such flash cards have standard interface. The card is simply plugged into a conveniently accessible slot. So we can have different memory size varying from 8, 32 and 64 MB. For example, a minute of music can be stored in 1 MB of memory. Hence, 64 MB flash card can store an hour of music. So in the case of flash cards, so we can mount different memory modules or larger modules within a flash chips, and such flash cards have standard interface. So these cards can be directly plugged into a convenient accessible slot. So next is flash drives. Larger flash memory can be developed by replacing the hard disk drive. So in order to replace the hard disk drive, so we can make use of larger flash memories. The flash drives are designed to fully emulate the use of hard disk. The flash drives are solid-state electronic devices that have no movable parts. So that means the static storage, that is nothing but the flash drives Flash drives are solid-state electronic devices that have no movable parts.